Happy autumn season. So today I am doing the October TBR. Yes, I know we only have a few days left in October, so this TBR video is very, very late, but you know what? It's better to get started than to have never started at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and before actually I talk about the books that I have left in my TBR, because I've already read a few books in October since we are on October 18th, 19th, but I'm not going to talk about those books. I'll leave those for the wrap-up video. But if you're curious why this video has a theme TBR or a season theme TBR or the name Hocus Pocus October in the title, go ahead and check out my explanation video as to why I'm doing a theme TBR, not just for the season, but also for month to month. And because it will be a very long explanation if I attempt to do this here. But I will go ahead and kind of explain why I selected the following books. The following books are books that some of them I have read, and they will be rereads, which I'm excited to reread some of them. But others are kind of in the theme of Hocus Pocus, which is magic, alchemy. Obviously, Hocus Pocus talks about 3 witches who have one Hallows Eve to become forever immortal. And yes, I've watched the sequel, and I love the sequel, but something about the original is still just wonderful. And of course, I'm so happy and glad that they made the sequel. It definitely should exist, but I love the original. And I wanted to title this Hocus Pocus. If you can't tell, here I have my little Binks with my little pumpkin. But yeah, all the books that you will find here on this TBR have something to do with timing, since the season theme, the autumn season theme, it's on the timing, which is a phrase by the playwright David Ives. And I'll explain that because that book, that collection of plays is in my TBR, so I'll talk about that in a second. But the second theme that I'm doing for the month is Hocus Pocus, which magic, alchemy, something about these books. There's 2 parts to this TBR. Part 1 is fiction, and it's all about characters that either have magic powers or something in their ability to create magic. Part 2 are books that, for me, are going to help me for NaNoWriMo in creating magic, because I am participating in NaNoWriMo this month, this year. I'm excited to do this again. I didn't get to do it last year, and I haven't participated in a while, so I'm excited to start again with my writing. I have no idea when I'm writing. I do know I'm writing one project, which is a screenplay, which another reason why this is titled Hocus Pocus. I am learning the, screenwriting, and I'm reading, or did read, David Totier's The Screenwriter's Bible, and also, well, I haven't finished it. I've read like 200 pages of that book. It's a massive book. But then I also did read, what's his name? Oh God, I can't remember the name, but another screenplay book as well. But I'm excited to dive into screenwriting in the month of November. And but other than that, I have another project I know I'm going to be working on. But other than that, I kind of want to do maybe 3 projects. But anyhow, I'll decide on that later. Now back to this video. Let's go ahead and get started on the TBR. So books that talk about magic or the characters are magical. Okay, so the first book on this TBR list is going to be David Ives' It's All in the Timing. Of course, I have to include the season theme TBR, or where I got the season theme. Now, this particular book, it's not a book, it's actually a collection of 14 short plays by the playwright David Ives. And it's a fun, comedic, wonderful collection of plays in which honestly, each one is unique. I haven't read all of them. I've read about 6 or 7, and I kind of want to get to reading the rest of them. But I will be reading, well, I've already read Sure Thing like 4 times, but I will be reading this again. It's a very short, like 10-minute, 15-minute play. Essentially, the characters, Bill and Betty, are in a coffee shop, and Looking around in the coffee shop, Bill notices that there's no seating available, so he asks Betty if he can sit down and, if there's anyone sitting there, and she actually rejects him and says, no, I'm waiting for someone. And far off in the distance, we hear this bell ringing, and that essentially just resets the scene. And again, he asks her, hey, do you mind if I sit here? And now she correctly says, yes, of course, go ahead. And essentially the conversation continues between them, and every time one of them says something negative or leads the conversation in an awkward manner, the bell is reset, essentially restarting their conversation until, of course, they live happily ever after. And what I loved about this particular play, Sure Thing, is it's one, I watched it in a black box theater performance years ago, and the actors all did a wonderful job. But even if you have never seen the performance, if you're watching or reading this for the very, very first time, the back and forth repertoire is fantastic. I mean, like, really, David Ives writes dialogue in a very, very incredible way. I also took the autumn season TBR from a particular phrase that Bill states to Betty in where, I have it here, they're talking about William Faulkner's book, The Sound and the Fury, which I haven't read, by the way. I should probably make that part of this TBR. But anyhow, he talks about, you never know. You might not have liked him before, William Faulkner. And Betty responds, that's true. And then Bill says, you might not have been ready for him. You have to hit these things at the right moment or it's no good. Betty then responds, that's happened to me. And then Bill says, it's all in the timing. Which, of course, I love that he says that about books in general, because that's how I feel certain books have come into my life where I really needed them and they've changed my life in some small or sometimes even a big way. And I love this collection of plays because it just comes back to something fun, something quick, something short, perfect for the autumn season. It's all in the timing. Another play that he has in here that's really hilarious, The Universal Language. And essentially, the two characters here are Don and Dawn, D-O-N-D-A-W-N. David Ives likes to name his characters with the same first starting letter. These two characters meet when Dawn, female lead character, comes into a school wanting to learn the universal language, which she thinks to be una munda. Basically, it's this made-up language created by Dawn, who we come to find out is a scammer. So they go back and forth, and he teaches her certain phrases about this about this language that I found so hilarious. Like bell jar is good for you. Bell jar means good day. Bleeny means good, which I don't understand why, bleeny means good when bell jar means good day. Shouldn't it be bleeny jar? Anyhow, there are other phrases where, like, John Cleese means English, like the word English. Velcro means hello. So, like, you read the play and you think, oh my God, what? Like, you could tell the author, David Ives, had such fun just making up these words and making it a universal language. But anyhow, the story continues, the play continues, and of course we come to find out that Don is a scammer. He just wants $500. That's how much he's charging for these classes. And it's just a very, very fun comedic play. It's very quick and easy to read and get through, and it just really makes you kind of laugh out loud. I have not seen this play, by the way, in person, in theater, anywhere near me. I just loved reading the play. I will continue to read other plays from this collection because there's quite a couple I haven't read, but Sure Thing and The Universal Language, as well as The Philadelphia, are some of my favorites. So the next book that I want to read is Arthur Miller's The Crucible. Now, this is a reread for me. I read this years and years ago when I was in high school, or no, I think it might have been junior high. Essentially, it's a play by Arthur Miller in which, of course, he talks about a set of young girls caught dancing in the woods and caught practicing what they thought to be witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts back in 1692. They then go ahead and actually blame and condemn fellow villagers in Salem and say that they are witches, and actually basically say that they've been in cahoots with the devil. So of course we come to know that Abigail ends up falsely accusing Elizabeth Proctor, and all these other girls also kind of point the finger at Elizabeth, say that she's been practicing witchcraft. And throughout the play, we get to kind of find out, you know, certain things about Abigail and John Proctor, who's Elizabeth's husband, who we come to find out essentially that they have been having an affair, and now she's just kind of pointing the finger at his wife because she's the scorned young woman that wants revenge. So I really, really wanted to reread this, not because I haven't read it in a long time, but more so because there's something very interesting that I read about Arthur Miller a couple days ago, in where he talked about, obviously this book was inspired by in the 1950s. He wrote this in 1952. It took him a year to write this, and the play premiered to not a lot of fanfare in January 1953. But I saw an article that an interview he did with the New Yorker, and obviously he drew a lot of inspiration and parallels to McCarthyism that was very, very strong at that point in the 1950s. So I really wanted to take a look at this once again. I'm very excited because I think I'm going to be doing like a witchy vlog, because all these books coming up next are about witches. And of course, this book is, or this play is one in which what can words really have the power to do? So I'm really excited to read this. It will be part of a vlog, so be on the lookout for that vlog, because I think I'm going to start that tomorrow. The next book I'm reading. Okay, so continuing with the theme of witches and magic and alchemy, my next book on my TBR list is going to be The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. Now this book is, I'm excited for this book because it's a young adult novel about a young witch named Clara Densmore. Yeah, Clara Densmore, who finds out she's an Everwitch. Essentially, she has magic that's tied to all 4 seasons, and unlike any of the other witches around her, I believe other witches can only have their magic or their powers tied to one particular season. So she's the only one in like a century that has the power to control or to have, like, her magic is tied to the 4 seasons. So spring, summer, fall, and the winter season. I'm excited for this one. Other than that, that's all I know. But I love the cover. I love that it goes on theme for this particular season theme TBR and month-to-month TBR. So that is going to be a book I'm really excited for. So the next book on the TBR, it's a smash-up between rom-com, fantasy, and paranormal. I'm really excited about this book because I haven't read a good rom-com book in quite a while. So I hope this one lives up to the hype. I've been hearing good reviews. It's The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. Now this is the first novel I'm going to read by Erin Sterling. Essentially, it's a book in which a young witch named Vivian Jones causes a spell against her ex after having like the worst night of her life, kind of a Bridget Jones all by myself kind of moment. Drinking, there's been wine, there's been some, feeling sorry for oneself after a breakup, and she essentially curses her ex-boyfriend, and she just believes this curse to be not something that will cause him any harm, just maybe a bad hair day, or maybe he will have like some kind of inconvenience happen to him for like a few days. Unbeknownst to her, the curse that she casts on him actually is very impactful and does affect his life. That's all I know about this book. I'm excited about it. I think that you kind of get me excited just by the fact that she goes ahead and uses her magic to kind of do a little bit of revenge. I think that there's some of these books here have a theme of revenge, with the Crucible and this. But this one, you know, I think she'll use her magic for good in the end. So I'm excited about this book. I really need a good rom-com, so here's hoping that this one will be it. Okay, now the next book on this list is one of those books that I was saying on my explanation video for why I'm doing a season-themed TBR. This is one of the books that undoubtedly has changed my life and impacted my life. Because it's that amazing, but more so because it's just a beautiful, wonderful book. I have read it once. I read it in the summer. I reread parts of it because really I dissected a lot of the dialogue since August because it's so beautiful. This book is wonderful. And so I'm excited to, of course, read it in October because this is what the magic season is all about. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you have not read this book, get yourself a copy now. This book essentially talks about a young boy, Santiago, who is a shepherd. He has been traveling the world traveling Andalusia for 2 years, herding his sheep from village to village. And one day, he from sleeping at a church or some kind of, I don't know if it was a church or some kind of sacred place that's been run down, he has this dream, and it makes him think why he keeps having this dream. He had it once before, and something about the dream makes him believe that there's something there. There's something important that he needs to know. So he ends up going to this kind of psychic to get more information on this dream. Essentially, the dream leads him to meet this king. And this king kind of tells him, if you go on this journey, if you sell me your sheep and go on this journey, well, you will be going on a very wonderful journey, and who knows if you'll complete it, but you dare embark on this journey. And it's essentially a book about magic, mysticism, spirituality. It's really, honestly, I love the back here from the book because it says to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. This book felt like kismet for me personally. When I discovered it, when I read it, it just felt like it was meant to be a part of my life, not only for the few weeks that I read it, but for the rest of my life. So I can't say anything more from this book because it's absolutely magical and wonderful. Honestly, it's an allegory for what is life and what we need to realize in our life and our dreams. So definitely read this book. I'll talk about it more in the wrap-up for the month, but it's a wonderful book. So now to part 2 of this video, of this TBR list, the nonfiction books that I will be reading. Now, this section, I'm calling it Creating Magic, because I feel like these books here will help me very, very much so for NaNoWriMo. Okay, so the next book on this list, it just wouldn't be the spooky season without including Stephen King to this list. Now, I love Stephen King, but I don't particularly like horror, which I get, spooky is all about the spooky, but I don't have the stomach for like blood, guts, horror. So I don't generally read Stephen King, his fiction, during the Halloween season, but I do want to read a Stephen King book. So, I made a compromise with myself, and this next book is a reread for me. It's again a book that just talks about the magic and the magic of creating books, and that's of course, his memoir on writing, A Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. Now, this is a book that I have reread 2 times, so I think it will be my 3rd time. I might be mistaken on that, but this book is such a wonderful book. It's not really a how-to guidebook on writing. He doesn't really talk about how you write a novel in 30 days or how you write a novel, if at all. But he really does give insight into his personal process, his writing journey. And I really love that part of this book is part memoir. So we get to know about Stephen King, his life. He talks about an accident that affected him and how it affected his writing and how he was able to overcome it, because he talks about how he almost stopped writing back in 1998 or 1999, which of course is like such a shock, because to know that the world possibly could have not read or have had another Stephen King novel the last 15 or 20 years or 22 years is of course a shock, because oh my God, this man is the king of horror for a reason, even though I've never read him in horror, but I know him to be, and of course a lot of people love his books. I might attempt to read a horror book. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know. I know Pet Sematary, Carrie, The Shining. I can't go near it, so don't even recommend it. I can't do it. I love Stephen King for this book, but I've watched that movie and I have nightmares to this day, or that series or TV series. That's what it was. It was a TV series. I can't touch it. I can't go near it. It scares me to this day. Clowns freak me out. So don't recommend it, but recommend any other book. I might be able to stomach the least amount of blood and guts possible. The more better or more prepared I'll be to read it. But this book I'm definitely reading for preparation for NaNoWriMo, just to give me inspiration. He is definitely a pantser, and that's interesting because I'm not a pantser. I would say I'm in between a plotter and a pantser, but I really like his philosophy on writing, which is just right. You know, he has a very, very blunt attitude about writing. Definitely excited to reread this again. Okay, so the next book on this list, continuing with books that help create magic or inspire you in your creativity. The next book is Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is going to be the first book I read by Elizabeth Gilbert. I have not read Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know much about this book other than it helps give a little bit of her unique perspective and wisdom on creativity itself. So I don't know if this is catered to writers. I don't believe so. I believe it's more for any type of artist. Yeah, if you're looking to write a book, make art, find new ways to address challenges in your work, embark on a dream long deferred, or simply infuse our everyday lives with more mindfulness and passion, this helps crack open a world of wonder and joy. Sounds beautiful, sounds wonderful. I'm excited. I'm looking for inspiration, all the inspiration I can get. NaNoWriMo is not the easiest of challenges, but it is very fun. So I can't wait to read this. I think I'm going to read this as part of my like witch fall vibes vlog. So yeah, another book by talking about magic and creating magic. Okay, and then finally, last but not least, another book that is going to be a reread for me again. It's going to be Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. Now, I've read this book twice or 3 times. I'm rereading it because I want to get a refresher on the types of genres she talks about here. She talks about buddy love, or if you're writing a mystery novel, you know, there's that genre as well. So I think she talks about how you have 10 genres that you can fit in with any story, and those genres, she goes into depth and gives examples in those genres, and then she talks about the beats, the actual beats in Save the Cat, which for screenwriting, I believe there's like 16 beats, and for the novel there's like 14 or 12. I might be getting that mixed up. But anyhow, this is a reread for me, and I'm excited for this. Like I said, it's in preparation for NaNoWriMo, and I can't wait to read it. I should probably get started on this since NaNoWriMo is like 13 days away. But that has been it. That has been all my books for my October TBR. Let me know, guys, what you're reading for the rest of October. As I film this, we're in October 19th, so we only have about 12 days left, which is perfect timing to, you know, like I said, all in the timing. Perfect timing to get a couple books in left before November, and I will be uploading my November TBR list in the next week. I'm excited for that. Be on the lookout what I'm naming that particular video, because I've decided to do two kind of like names for that video, because we have, obviously it's nonfiction November, but I want to also do a fiction side, so there will be two names associated to the November video. And if you like this video, please make sure to comment down below, like and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. So thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!